Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. I hope all of you are having a great day so far. I just wanted to welcome all of you to our inaugural Well-Being with BayOne event. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Kia Devanji. I am part of the BayOne HR team here in the North America Pleasanton office. And today we're essentially diving headfirst into mental health because it's May and May is the Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we basically want to work towards spreading awareness, and taking a positive impact on our mental well-being and passing that on forward. We designed this well-being series for Team BayOne, and we're also opening our doors wide and open to welcome our extended community to join us in this LinkedIn Live webinar. When we talk about well-being with BayOne, it is our way of showing how much we care about the mental health, not only about our employees, but also everyone around that is involved in the BayOne community. So stay tuned into this series of events where we cover different aspects of well-being for the rest of the year. We want to make sure we're providing practical tips to expert advice and also inspiring stories. And we're always here to empower you on your journey of well-being. We're bringing people together, some serious, awesome speakers and experts who know their stuff. They'll be sharing their wisdom, their experiences, some helpful tips to overcome challenges, understand the importance of wellness, and finding ways to practice self-care and resilience. And guess what, Team BayOne? This is your chance to get involved. So soak up all the knowledge, embark on your personal well-being journey, and we'll help you build a more supportive environment where each team can thrive, each member can find more joy, and be super productive. So let's make all of this happen together, and let's begin today's seminar. Today's event marks the beginning of our Well-Being with BayOne series. We're shining the spotlight on mental health with the beginning of the Mental Health Awareness Month. We want to know just how important it is to take care of our minds because let's be real, healthy mind usually means a healthier and a happier, successful you. And we want to make sure that you're successful in every area of your life. I'm going to start with introducing our speaker for today. Our topic is talking about different types of stress and how we can manifest different management tactics in our everyday lives. Dhruti is who our speaker is for today. She will be talking about the mind and body connection with stress and demonstrate a few simple ways on how we can manage our symptoms. So let me introduce Dhruti a little bit. She is a licensed clinical mental health counselor, registered yoga teacher, a super mom, working to support the community for over 20 years. She is successfully running 2 businesses and is passionate about taking an integrative approach towards better health. She is passionate about supporting families by facilitating and providing a well-rounded approach to optimal well-being. For over her 30 years of experience in the world of children and their care, she has worn many hats in many countries and it therefore offers a global perspective for her support. Dhruti works very closely with all stakeholders in the life of a child, including the schools, other paraprofessionals, and extended family members, and a lot more. So let's invite her on and make sure that we have our webinar begin with a great welcome to Dhruti. Hi, Dhruti.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hope you're having a great day.
I will, because we're about to do some fun things here. Well, fun for me anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for that generous welcome, for that generous introduction, I suppose. And I think this is so important. Not I think, I know. This is an incredibly important topic. So I do want to give you and your team a kudos for making this happen.
Yay.
Also, a kudos to invite the community on, for everybody to join in. I think that's fantastic. So Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that is very close to my heart, and I want to make sure that I'm able to reach out to as many people who are not only part of BayOne, but can come across BayOne at any point, whether it's on social media or otherwise. And so putting your word out there was something that I thought was so important. So I'm so glad you're here to join us.
Well, again, thank you. And this is a village. I always say this. You've heard me say this before. So, what I
Yes,
appreciate is the village joining in. And to that
absolutely.
end, just a very quick yes, I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. Yes, I've spent over 30 years of working or dedicating myself to the work of children and their families. The message today comes to
Mhm.
all of us, people, individuals, everybody. It applies to
Absolutely.
everybody. So the more we learn about this for ourselves, my selfish little bit intention motive is if we take care of us, we can take care of
Mhm.
our children. So
Absolutely.
people
Couldn't
joining
agree
us
more.
today in the LinkedIn community and just the ether all over, welcome. Before we jump into talking about stress, I'd like to begin with a centering, a few moments, taking this time to bring ourselves, gather ourselves here. So, if you would please, I invite you to join me, finding
Yeah,
yourself
absolutely.
a comfortable place. You could be seated. Well, this is the online internet world, so maybe you are lying down comfortably on a bed. Maybe you are standing like I am. Any position that you're in, I invite you to find the base or ground underneath you. Begin by getting yourself comfortable. And I also invite you to either you close your eyes or you can keep a soft gaze down on the floor and just follow my cue and invite yourself to this space. Taking a moment to gather your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. Imagine just bringing them all, collecting them in within this space, and begin to notice yourself in the space with your thoughts, emotions, feelings as we slowly bring our awareness to the breath. Just bringing that awareness into that cool sensation of the breath flowing in through the nostril and noticing the warm exhales leaving your body. Knowing that all your thoughts, feelings, emotions are right there with you in this space, I invite you to take another breath in. And this time, as you exhale, invite those thoughts, feelings, emotions to take a back seat for the next 45 minutes ish. Breathing in and slowly releasing all those thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, letting them go, giving them permission just to be there. They will be there when we're done. But we center, we gather, we come together in this space. But for that, we need to create space. So taking another final deep breath in, noticing the space you've created within. And as you exhale out, release out any remnants of thoughts you might have. And when you're ready, you're welcome to come into this joint space. You can feel all of you, your presence around. You flutter your eyes open and bring your attention back to this space as we dive into our talk for today.
No,
Now,
that was really transcending. Thank you.
you're welcome. Um, the topic today is understanding the signs and symptoms of stress. And by the way, helpful ways to manage them. But before I jump into this, I do want to invite all of you, no, not for another breathing exercise, but to invite you to be you. Please let's make this conversation interactive. Even though I cannot see you, I know you're there, I feel you. Let's make
Absolutely.
this very personal and relevant to you. So, if you would, anytime you have a thought, a question, please feel free. I welcome you to put your comments, your questions in the chat box. And then Kaya here will guide me to them. And we can make this a discussion rather than a one way webinar. If you were here in
Absolutely.
person, yeah. If you were here in person, I would have actually done this thing of I'm going to stare you down. Talk to me. Let's do this together. On the
Yeah.
ether, I invite you to put it in the chat box.
Absolutely. And for you to just get an idea of where we have people joining in from. So we have people joining us from Pleasanton, California. We have people joining us from India. We have people in India. We have people joining us from Delhi. We also have a few people that are joining us from the UK, Toronto, New Zealand. And we just wanted to make sure that you know you have people watching you all over.
Well, thank you for taking the time for yourself. Welcome to this space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we move forward, I want to start out with a question. So right off the bat, let's make this interactive. Now that you've made space within yourself, I hope that you feel a little bit grounded to explore. What is your self-care routine? Think about this. You're welcome to add this to chat. And if not, just think about it and park it somewhere. How frequently do you take breaks? Do you
As
have a good role model in your life, who
And not
sets you
as much as I would like when it comes to breaks, for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. So these are exploring questions that we can park away, think about. I mean, if I talk about myself, I was talking to my own therapist, self care, today, and I was talking to her about how I get all in a tizzy. There's so much to do. I don't ask for things, and yet things get piled on my plate. Um, and I am just one of those who has to go, 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 do, until there was a moment of clarity and said, I need to take frequent breaks. So even I, supposedly mental health counselor, needs a reminder I need to take more frequent breaks. I don't take enough. So this exploration, this self awareness opens us up to make a choice. How can I choose to do something differently? So you all have chosen to show up today to learn about a couple things. And that choice will help you then learn tips and techniques from me, from each other. Please share. So anything that you share on here on the chat is not just for your benefit or my benefit, it is for all of us. When you share what your self
Absolutely.
care routine is, somebody else will look at it and go, oh, I want to try that, right?
Yeah.
So, self care, like I said before, our care will help the care of everybody around us. Like you go on an airplane, we put a oxygen mask on our face first and then somebody else, right? So, all that is fine and dandy. But, whoa, how do you do that in the past? You know what I'm talking about, March
Mhm.
2020, for actually even before that, but let's go with March 2020 to the present day. What has changed? What has that looked like? And if I might take you in this little visualization just for a moment, think about the past this period of time. And if you would once again finding yourself, notice what this image or even this term of past, the term past, what does that bring up in your body? Notice where you feel that in your body. I'm going to be silent for another 5, 7 seconds. Just take that time to figure out past. Yeah. So when I
Mhm.
think of the past, The one word that does jump out to me, which was the reason to put this slide in, is stress. There has been a lot going on, and it brings a lot of things up. I feel that here in my chest. I feel that here, right above my belly button. I feel that in my shoulders. You may feel it in different places. But this is a testament to what Kea said. Let's dive in head first into this. This actually is a testament into let's go body up, right? Any feelings, the stress that we have actually begins in the body. We feel it in the body. Yeah. So when that happens, what goes on is our nervous system, the being, is affected. Okay, so just a very quick, I'm
Absolutely.
not going to go into major science, but to help us understand the connection and the strategies and so the helpful, by the way, tips that I'm about to give you, if
Mhm.
we understand this little bit of science behind it, it'll make more sense. So, this stress that I have felt here and here was my
Mhm.
sympathetic nervous system. So, when I'm looking at my screen, the pinkish colored thing on the right is
Mhm.
your sympathetic nervous system, which is a
Mhm.
place all these organs are affected when the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, which means when I feel these thingies, or even
Mhm.
excited, yeah, this has happened, that also is my sympathetic nervous system gets
Mhm.
affected. And
Absolutely.
my parasympathetic nervous system, which is my rest and digest, my relaxed place, my organs
Mhm.
are all blue, they're all in a
Mhm.
steady place. This
Mhm.
nervous system is then compromised. I'm no longer
Mhm.
in that state, right?
Absolutely.
So when we talk about self care, our goal is to get into
Mhm.
the parasympathetic nervous system. That's
Mhm.
where we want to get into
Right.
because our sympathetic is activated. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to pause for a very quick second before we jump into the types of stress care. Are there any questions that you see coming in the chat space?
Um, I do see a few people pointing out where they feel their stress and where they feel the past in their body. We
Mm-hmm.
have somebody telling us that they feel it in the back of their head and in their shoulders. We also have someone who says they feel it in their chest and their gut.
Yep.
So these are just some people who did point out, and we
Yeah,
also want to make sure that that our self-care goal was to get into the parasympathetic nervous system and make sure that it's up and running in the way we want it to.
exactly. So everything
Mm-hmm.
that people have talked about. Well, how do I go back
Mm-hmm.
to my slide? There we go. The things
Uh-huh.
that you felt, the gut right here, the chest that you
Yes.
felt,
Mm-hmm.
up in your head, back of your head, your shoulders, it's all right here. They're all affected.
Absolutely.
Now, they're the same organs,
Mm-hmm.
but being in the stress place, this is what we are doing to our body and not taking care of it. We're staying here, which can cause all types of issues we won't get into today. But what we want to get at is this. So,
Absolutely.
when we go into stress, when we talk about stress, what are we talking about? So, as you see here, stress can be defined as any type of change, right, that causes anything. Now, change is the critical word. It can be defined as any type of change. Now, good change, bad change. But change is change. Good stress, bad
Absolutely.
stress. Stress is stress. The
Mm-hmm.
brain doesn't know the difference in that sense. The body, even with good stress, will still feel it in the body. The body is like, oh my God,
Absolutely.
this is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
eustress, in the four types of stress, the eustress, the acute stress, episodic acute stress, and chronic stress. These are the different types.
Mm-hmm.
In the interest of our time, and in the stress of getting it done on time,
Mm-hmm.
I will leave this slide for you all to either take a picture of. You're welcome to Google it later, study about it later. But the point of me putting this slide here was to let you know that there are different types of stress. However, whatever type of stress may be, or reason that your stress might be, or you might be stressed, it all affects the same system. Right? You may have four reasons for it, but the
Mm-hmm.
impact is one, the sympathetic nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
You may feel it in many different places, but it's a felt experience. So,
Yes.
something to remember is the feeling causes a thought pattern, and the thought pattern causes behavior. So, that's not something I put on the slide, but I did want to stress on that. Feeling in the body. For example, I was stressed about the presentation today, even though I've done it so many times. Every
Mm-hmm.
presentation, the excitement, the nervousness is stress. I felt it
Mm-hmm.
once again here and here.
Mm-hmm.
And like somebody pointed out, the back of more like top of my head. So
Uh-huh.
this was a feeling automatically would lead to a negative thought pattern because it's different. Oh, dang, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to do it well. I better finish it. Oh my God, am I going to be on time? Oh, I'm not going to make it. There'll be technology issues, blah, blah, blah. Thoughts. But those thoughts came from the feelings first. And
Mm-hmm.
then follows the behavior. So some of these are actually motivating. Some of these behaviors are actually, or rather, feelings and thoughts are like, oh, I better make sure I'm not late. So I do, the behaviors I do lead me to manage my stress, right?
Absolutely.
All that said, feels in the body, but sometimes those thoughts, which then lead to behavior, get too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's only so much. There's only so much you can do, or only so much behavior that you can manage over time. It gets exhausting. It is
Yeah.
extremely tiring, and it is extremely draining on us.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Everything that's affected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to introduce or show you this wonderful video which talks about what that prolonged amount of stress can do to our body and our brain. If you would,
Yeah.
you magicians behind the scenes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all, though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus. This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things. and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes, meaning that they affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news, though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
So, welcome back. Kaya, can you hear me?
Yes, I
I
can.
want to make sure that everybody's audio is back. And so this video might have brought some things up to all of us. Some of these facts, I should say, can be very heavy to take. And while this study they talked about on rats, I can tell you it is on humans too. I say this to you as a therapist, somebody who's worked with children, families for the length of time that I have, all the gray hair that you see. Yeah. It affects us. It affects how we interact with people. It affects our relationships, our work, what we eat, everything. So before we jump into the next part of it, I will, please. To get to this place, I welcome you to, again, figure out, let's see, explore. Come into your being. So wherever you are, maybe if you are seated, I might actually ask you to stand up if you can, if your body gives you permission. Come into a standing from seated. If you are standing, go into seated. Change your position, change what you're doing just for a moment. And once you have, let's go through the same centering exercise that we did in the beginning. And I will be silent this time for another 5 or 7 seconds. And yes, I do count. And I'd like you to notice again after this video what you learned, what that meant to you, and where that landed in your body. So I'm going to start my count, and I'll be quiet. And as I welcome you back, this is one tip that I give you right off the bat, is checking in with yourself. Every time, let's say during transitions, when you go through the rhythm of your body, the ultradian rhythm, and body rhythms, etc., checking in, it takes 5 or 7 seconds to figure out, where do I feel this? I'm about to go into a regular meeting. I'm about to do something different. How am I feeling about that? Taking stock of ourselves is step number 1, right? So if you wouldn't mind, again, please share in the chat box what this video meant to you, where you felt it. Was it different from what you started out before this webinar or before we started the presentation? Was there a change, right? So think about those. Feel free to share. Kea, is there anything you'd like to read out through or share?
Yeah, we do have Sonia who said that the video was very informative for her. And we also have Thea who said it was very helpful. So
Yeah,
just we have more comments coming in, but when as they do, I'm gonna put it on.
yeah,
Someone said noted everything down, super
yeah,
helpful. So it definitely was very enlightening to see how things work and to learn more about it.
yeah. Thank you. So this, moving on to from chaos, all of that, this happens and that happens, and we go into depression, etc., which are all true, but there's clarity. So what does that look like? What can we do? There is mindfulness. One, mindfulness is, again, I know you all can read it, but I picked two of my favorite people to follow, so please feel free to look them up later. Dr. Christopher Willard um, has done some absolutely wonderful work on mindfulness, especially with children and people. And Dr. Dan Siegel, he has some groundbreaking work as well on mindfulness. But of course, they're not the only two people. Mindfulness as a concept has existed for a really long time, and a lot of wonderful theorists, philosophers, all of them have done amazing work on it. But what is it? Like, what is mindfulness? And if I were to ask you to think about it, make a note of it, what does mindfulness mean to you? Right? Mindfulness is paying attention to the here and now. So, what we just did, the exercise we did, figuring out, that was being mindful. We were paying attention to the here and now. But that's not enough. With acceptance and non judgment. So that is the most difficult part. Is, yeah, okay, I saw this video, I feel it here. Oh, dang, I really shouldn't be stressed right now. Wait, what am I being stressed about? That's judgment. But if we figure out what we're doing, how we're feeling, and just accepting that, just think, oh, yeah, this is how I feel. With non judgment, not trying to change it either after the judgment. That is mindfulness. Dr. Willard would say, how do I know what I'm doing? How do I know what I know? How do I know that I'm writing? Oh, I'm holding a pen. My pen is touching the paper. I am actually moving my arm. That, simple as that, is mindfulness, right?
Okay.
So mindfulness is actually also being, not just being aware, but being intentional. Like Dr. Dan Siegel says, is being conscientious and intentional in what we do. Now, that has definitely been my mantra for this year. I really want to try and be intentional in everything I do, which then brings us to choice. Yeah. Once we become aware, we can be intentional. Once we become intentional, we can choose. We have a choice. And sometimes, many times, most of the times, we feel like we don't have a choice. But we do. I'm here to remind you, we always have a choice. Even if we may choose not to make a choice, it is a choice. We may choose, we may not have a choice in what to do sometimes. We may not have a choice in things happening to us, but we have a choice in how we approach it. We have a choice in how we think about it. We have a choice in how we feel about it, right? So that is, um, I guess, mindfulness at its core, right? What mindfulness does is it actually changes the neural pathways, the patterns in our brain. It allows the little exercise that we did in the very beginning, the centering, where we invited our thoughts, feelings, emotions, beings, and then we breathe that out and we ask them to just be. The space creation and being present was a mindful practice. Right? Meditation is different. So not to get mindfulness and meditation, they're often used interchangeably, but they're two different things. Mindfulness is the here and now. We have to be mindful in order to meditate. We have to be present in order to sit down, be still, and meditate, right? So what that does in our brain is all the different parts. I know the screen here is very fuzzy, but I'm sure you can Google, by the way. Full credit to Google for all of these wonderful images. But what it does is the parts of our brain that hold the stress, the trauma, the fight or flight responses, I'm sure many of you have heard about it, those parts of the brain are directly affected by the mindful practices. It changes the structure of those parts of your brain. They actually become more solid, they come connected together. Dr. Dan Siegel always says, what fires together wires together. So, in being mindful, we're actually firing parts of our brain that get neglected because of stress, or parts of our brain that get neglected because of repeated stress. Mindfulness allows them to be fired so that they can wire, right? These parts of our brain then would go on to help us with, would go on to help us with sending the appropriate messages through the rest of your body. So Dr. Stephen Porges has done some phenomenal work on the vagus nerve. And I won't slide back down. I think if we jump too much down, some of us might get a visual, whoa. But if you remember the earlier slides, in the nervous system, our spine from here connecting all the way down is a vagus nerve, the one pathway up and down the elevator. And it connects to all the different floors, the organs in our body. And they take all the information, sending you, oh, cramping here. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit there. They take it all, anxious, butterflies in my stomach, whatever it be. Those little connections, they come collect information, they send it up like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Remember the elevator, the glass elevator in there that goes vision up there? Sends all the information through that one pathway, the vagus nerve. It sends it to the brain. The brain takes the information and then decodes that and say, oh, hip hurting, stand up, shake it. Oh, wait, butterflies in the stomach. We need to activate the flight response. The brain decodes it and then sends a message back to the body, delegating it like the big boss. You do this, you do that. Now, if we are stressed, our body takes all that information. There's so much chaos, commotion going on. And then when I said chaos to clarity, when we begin to be mindful, we take those breaks. I'll teach you more strategies, but for now, when we begin to check in, that's always step one, awareness, check in, intention. The mindful brain is able to take that information that the body sends and then appropriately, by appropriately, I mean in the parasympathetic nervous system, in the rest and relax place, appropriate, say, oh, that's not a threat. You know what? I know you have to send that email, but you can do that tomorrow. Appropriate organization of thoughts happen. That's what the mindfulness exercises or mindfulness practices, if I would, help us to do. Okay? Any questions for me so far? Anything? I'm giving you a lot of information. Take a moment.
No. For now, I guess everybody's pretty intensively listening to you, so I think we can move on.
Okay. All of this mindfulness, what does it need? Where do you do it? Well, anywhere. When do you do it? Anytime, literally, like we said, even in this webinar. If you're sitting in a meeting, boring meeting, you can practice mindfulness. And mindfulness doesn't mean you're plugging off, right? That you're not unplugging from what's happening. You can be mindful in the midst of busy, because then you're really able to focus on what you're doing. Right? So anytime you can practice mindfulness, anytime. If you want to do it intentionally, you can schedule time for mindfulness. If you want to do it unintentionally, which is recommended, it should be a daily practice, is when you're doing your dishes, when you're writing, going out for a walk, listening to music, anytime. And then what do you need? No props, no Amazon purchases necessary, no retail therapy necessary for mindfulness. We just need ourselves. We need to be present, right? I see a comment here before sleep time, but as suggested, more often we should try. Correct. You're right, sir. You're right, but I want to say a but, right? For somebody who struggles with sleep myself. So, full disclosure, it's not something we want to do once a day. Our goal is to be in that mode of being. Yeah. So if we do, this is a reminder, not just for you, it is for me. Yes, a yoga teacher, but it is a reminder for me. If I practice mindfulness during the day, then it's a lot easier to do it, Mr. Srivastava. It's a lot easier to do it before sleep, right? Otherwise, what happens is, yes, we do it before sleep. In my case, a couple times a week, 3 times a week. No, get some sleep, yes, but it takes more effort. But if I did it during the day, then, and when I do it before bedtime, it takes less effort. That makes sense. Yeah. So, mindfulness, perfect time to practice yet another thing. Before I jump into, I don't even remember what the next slide is. Oh, it is that. Hallelujah. All right. So, I would like for you to try something that I don't have around here for now. Wherever you are, no, I'm not going to ask you to close your eyes, but you're welcome to if that's what you prefer. But I'd like you to start with the sense of hearing, okay? And for the next 10 seconds or so, when I'm quiet, if you have access to a pen and paper or the chat box or your phone, whatever that may be, but I'd like you to, for 10 seconds, pay attention to the sounds in your environment. And I'd like you to just listen to the sounds and see if you can think them out, count them out. Don't write yet. Just take 10 seconds to listen to those sounds. And I start now. Go for it. All right, 10 seconds up. And now is your time taking the next 10 seconds, maybe 12, to jot down all the sounds you heard. Make a note of those, please. Go for it. And that's 12 seconds, at least to my counting. What you might have noticed, and I know it was a very short duration, but what you might have noticed is when we activate one of our senses, we're being mindful. We're saying, all right, I'm only going to focus on one thing at a time, which is my hearing. And you had a task. You were asked to listen to the sounds around you and just listen, don't act. I did not ask you to listen and write. We're multitasking, right? Just listen. And in doing that, you might notice, oh, I didn't notice that sound before in that time. That often happens to me. And then when you begin to write it down, what also you might have noticed is it's a little easier to remember those. And oftentimes when I'm working with my parents and families or playing with my children, I mean the children in my support, I have them write it in the reverse order. So let's say you heard an air conditioning unit first, and then the car, and then the bird, and then the keys, and the step, and so on. The reverse order writing down is starting with the step and so on, right? Yes, Mr. Humming and so on. So when you begin to write those in reverse order, Your brain is being extra mindful, trying to retain. You're strengthening your memory. You're strengthening many different things I won't get into. So that's a practice right there for you. If you can spend some time, let's say when you go out for a walk, and choose to use one sense, say, okay, I'm just going to notice what my skin feels when I go out for a walk. And there are different sensations. And those type of practices, again, like I said, don't need any props, will take you into a more grounded place, which in turn helps reduce stress, right? So, everybody ready to try something else?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, you're going to try it. You're welcome to just watch. Okay, let's go through a breathing exercise because I've been giving you a lot of information. The next, please use your discretion. Please do not do this if you don't feel okay in your body. If you have any other breathing conditions that may prevent you from doing this, please do not do this. Because I cannot see you, I cannot advise you whether or not you can, not that I would anyway, but stressing upon, be careful. Okay. So, what we're about to do will need us to be sitting somewhere or standing or lying down, basically with your back straight. So, we do want to sit or be in a position that allows optimal breath taking. Feel the ground beneath your feet or
Mhm.
the surface beneath your feet. And then I invite you to close your eyes or keep a soft gaze down on the floor. And before even we go into the breathing practice, I wonder if you could imagine your head on your shoulders and see if you can feel your chin almost parallel to the ground, right? When I say see, I don't mean look in there. I say in your being. Do you feel that your chin is pointed up towards the ceiling? If so, if you can just gently draw it down, or maybe you feel your chin is, when we try and focus, many times we tip our chin towards our chest. You might want to lift it just a little. And this very simple posture sets you up for optimal breathing. This allows the breath to go through, opens this pathway, and because your spine is as erect and straight as it can be, it allows the breath to flow through. All right, so now that you're set up with your spine straight, your shoulders are relaxed, you can feel the surface beneath your feet. Your head is resting on your shoulders with your chin parallel to the ground. And we begin by taking a beautiful, wonderful, nourishing sip of breath, an intentional sip of breath, soaking it in, watching it pass through, going down. And as next breath, you just exhale it out. Notice that path. Nothing is moving or changing in your body. You're literally just breathing. And with this couple of breaths, we begin to invite some more breath in. See if we can send that breath a little bit deeper. Maybe it goes a little bit past your chest, goes into your rib cage. Just without forcing it, all we're doing is inviting. Let that breath come in and then leave. And with every couple of breaths, we're going to try and send that breath a little deeper, expanding that rib cage just a micrometer, inflating our insides, going down through the diaphragm. And then when you're exhaling, it is just smooth, coming back up and out through the nose. Taking a breath in through your nose, observing it going down, your windpipe, your chest, your rib cage, and then finally it settles and finds a space near your belly. And when you exhale, you allow that breath to leave from the belly, going its way up, traveling up through your rib cage as it closes in, emptying your lungs, breathing it out. Welcome back. This
Oh, that
breathing,
was so refreshing.
simple, right? It doesn't need anything but intention. What it needs
Absolutely.
is intention, it needs choice. Other than that, you're all set, right? Ooh, I lost my slides. So this breathing technique, if we did a little bit more, it would be diaphragmatic breathing, which is your diaphragm. This area, we send the oxygen in. This area feels expanded, making space. And as you breathe out, you feel this area contract and breathe out, flushing out the toxins. So most of us, especially during stress, all of us, we tend to breathe shallow. You might notice that your breath landed here. And that shallow breathing, remember the brain? This is a very short distance of travel, right? The breath goes and then the information it sends to the brain is limited. And the brain goes, oh, breathe more. I need more information. So it goes back here, we breathe in, and goes back over here, we breathe out. But what we want to do is take our time. So we want to breathe deeper. Be aware of where your breath lands in your body. That was the purpose of this breathing exercise. Okay, so once again, if you would take a couple seconds to just make a mental note, where did your breath land? When you take a breath in, is it here? Is it deeper? Is it just in your shoulders? That happens. Sometimes when I have panic attacks, it lands right here. My breath will not go past this, right? So being aware, once you know that, the feelings lead to thoughts, lead to behavior. We want to change the feeling. You begin with taking slowly, very slowly, no rush, one sip of breath at a time. Invite your breath to go deeper and deeper and deeper. There's no timeline in this. Okay. The next, I'll share maybe one more and then we can open it up to questions and discussions, is positive self talk. So the mindful walk around the room is similar to what we did. Take a sense, pick a sense, and then see what you can notice. The positive self talk is a very, I want to say unorthodox, but maybe somewhere out there calls me out on it. The positive self talk is a mindful exercise or maybe a stress releasing exercise where if you could write down, I actually have some to show you. You get these. Now, this one is Amazon or someplace. It does need some purchasing or not. You may write your own index cards. But having these available to you and making that an intention and a conscious choice to pick one, and I have one on my board behind me. I have whichever feels right, and that's what I say to myself that day. That positive talk, you've got to, fake it to make it. So again, Dr. Dan Siegel will say, name it to tame it. So if we're going to name something, if we're going to be positive self-talk to ourselves, our brain doesn't know the difference. It really doesn't. I love that we have this circuitry here, but we can trick it very easily. So let's trick it. Give ourselves a positive self-talk. Let's see what we have brought over here. If there's something that makes you laugh, then every day is going to be okay. Right? So I read this and I have this around me and I remind myself everything is going to be okay. I just need to laugh. So this is a very effective, unorthodox way of managing stress too. Yeah. So we have these techniques, I guess, and I can give you plenty more, but there are wonderful apps on there. Headspace is one of them that I highly do recommend. Feel free to download some apps. Bottom line is take care of you. So I open it up to discussions. If there's any questions, anything, here are some resources, some information I found for you. But yeah, talk to me.
We
Any questions?
do have one question. First of all, thank you so much, Dhruti, for sharing all this information. It definitely was a lot to take in and imbibe, but also gave us a lot of answers that we probably have been having in the back of our brain for a while. It also explained a lot about how our body works. And so I think that, having that kind of aha moment for those kind of things was something that happened with me in this session today. And I think that that was very helpful. We do have a question from Lorraine who says, what is the name of the deck of the cards that you were using?
Oh gosh. Put me on the spot here. I don't know. I picked it up from TJ Maxx, actually. It wasn't even on. It doesn't say the name, but you can get lots of these. It's a whole set. And I do know for a fact that Miss Kea here does enjoy looking for these, so she might be able to
Yeah,
give you a better
absolutely.
tip than I am.
A lot of different stores like Amazon, Target, TJ Maxx have a lot of self-affirmation as well as positive thinking slide deck cards that you can go to. You can always find them in the card section in all these stores. You can definitely find individual ones, maybe through Instagram stores or online anywhere else. But I would say you could try your local Target. I'm pretty sure you're going to find something that
But
suits you.
remember, Kea, we are talking to people internationally.
Oh,
Not
well,
everybody has it,
yeah,
right?
but you
So
could try crosswords in India. You could try so many different Barnes and Nobles in Europe. Like all these stores for sure definitely have access to these things. You don't
absolutely.
even have to go buy something. I'm sure there are apps that are free available on your phone. There are self-affirmation apps that I use, just reminding you of
Great.
some things that you're
Great tips.
manifesting. Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
I see a
We
question
have
here.
another question.
Share
Yes.
examples of what being mindful during a meeting might look like. Absolutely. So, and I'll give you my live example is when I'm in a session, a therapy session, and I have to be ready and present for an hour, back to back to back, many hours. What works for me is being aware. Every now and then I'll check in, and the sense of touch is important to me. So I am sensing, oh, remind me, where am I sitting? So I begin to feel the seat under me. I will change my position and I'll begin to feel the surface beneath my feet. I'll That's for the sense of touch. My clothing, I may mindfully, intentionally make a choice to adjust my clothing so it snaps me out and it brings me into the sense of touch. So I'm not just adjusting it for the sake of adjusting, but I'm doing it with a purpose. Yeah. Or you might want to be mindful, and even doodling is a mindful exercise during a meeting. Some people might shun it and say it's, you're getting distracted and so on. It's not. You can just do Zentangle. You can make doodles and just do this. But not to do this to let your mind or your thoughts drift away, but actually to watch. How do I know I'm doing what I'm doing? Like Dr. Christopher Willard says, how do I know that I'm making these curves? I'm watching my pen do this. I'm watching my pen, my arm go up and down. So, some examples of being mindful, yeah, during a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think we have a lot of people thanking you for a great session. And we have somebody who helped us with the name. It's called Positive Affirmation Cards for Daily Encouragements. You can look that up online. I'm sure there's either a PDF or an online version you can access.
This
I
here
definitely want to, yeah.
says, this here says greeninspired.com.
Mm-hmm.
greeninspired.com.
Yeah. So you can check that out for sure. And I definitely want to thank you, Dhruti, for taking the time out to
You're welcome.
explain to us how we can understand the different symptoms of stress we feel in our body and how we can tackle them and how we can still stay on top of our mind and body connection, even though all the stresses around us tell us we don't have that. And thank you, everybody else, for joining us. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions live, please reach out to us on either our LinkedIn page, Instagram page, or Twitter. You can find us at BayOne Solutions and just send us a message, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. We hope you enjoyed your first Well-Being with BayOne session. Please let us know in the chat what different topics you'd like to hear from us and what next you want us to do in the Well-Being with BayOne series. Thank you so much, Ruby. Once again, I hope you have a
Thank you
great,
all.
great week.
I hope
Yeah,
you all do too. Yep. Reach out if there's anything. I'm right here.
absolutely.
Being
Thank you
mindful.
so much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Take care.